Well, well, well. Look at them now. Funny, isn't it? That tiny moment, that little pause in their expression, when they finally realize you were never what they assumed you were. They spent so much time convincing themselves you were weak, soft, simple. They thought your silence meant you had nothing to say. They thought your patience meant you had no limits. They thought your kindness meant you had no power. They misread you from the beginning. They didn't know your silence was a choice, not a flaw. They didn't know you were watching, studying, learning. They thought you were slow to understand. Truth is, you understood everything. You just didn't react. And nothing scares people more than someone who sees everything and chooses to say nothing. They mistook your calm for fear, but calm people aren't scared. Calm people are calculating. You didn't expose their lies. You didn't warn them you knew. You didn't argue to prove your worth. Instead, you let them talk. You let them lie. You let them dig deeper. You let them believe they were winning. Because here's the thing. A snake reveals itself when it thinks no one is watching. They thought they were playing a game. They didn't know you created the game. And while they were busy performing for an audience that doesn't exist, you were transforming in silence, turning your hurt into hunger, turning your confusion into clarity, turning every scar into strategy. You let them underestimate you on purpose, because the most dangerous advantage you can have in this world is being underestimated. While they laughed at you, you were evolving. While they doubted you, you were sharpening. While they thought you were stuck, you were leveling up. They thought you were harmless, but harmless isn't the right word. You were controlled, you were focused, you were aware, and now you walk differently. You look differently. You think differently. Not louder, not angrier, just stronger. You don't chase anymore. You don't beg anymore. You don't explain anymore. You don't flinch. You don't break. You don't fold. And that terrifies them because they can't figure you out anymore. You don't respond like you used to. You don't apologize for existing. You don't shrink yourself to make them comfortable. You used to carry conversations. Now you carry silence. They used to drain your energy. Now they can't even reach you. They come closer, and all they find is distance. They speak, and all they hear back is silence. They try to manipulate you, and all they see is no reaction. Because once your heart shuts off, your mind takes over. You stop seeing people for their potential and start seeing them for who they truly are. You stop fighting for people who never fought for you. You stop showing up for people who disappear when you need them. You stop begging to be chosen by people who don't even choose themselves. They thought losing you would be temporary. They never imagined it could be permanent. Because once you finally understand your worth, there is no going back. And that's what scares them. They don't miss you. They miss the version of you who tolerated their disrespect. They miss the version of you who replied instantly, who forgave instantly, who cared instantly. That version is gone. You outgrew them. You outgrew the pain. You outgrew the attachment. You outgrew the illusion. They thought you would always care. They thought you would always stay. They thought you would always be available. But you woke up one day and finally chose yourself. And that choice was the beginning of their ending. Because without you, their attention feels empty. Their ego feels starved. Their life feels quiet. You were never the one drowning. You were the one keeping them afloat. And now they feel the void. They feel the absence. They feel the loss. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove anything. Your evolution is the loudest revenge. Your silence is the sharpest blade. Your absence is the final sentence. You know what's funny? They thought the power was in your attachment, but the real power was in your detachment. The moment you stopped caring, the world shifted. They always believed you needed them. They fed off that illusion. They loved the comfort of knowing you wouldn't walk away. So they pushed. They tested your patience. They played with your loyalty. They lied, thinking you would forgive forever. But there comes a point, a specific moment, when something inside you clicks. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet realization: I'm done. And once that decision is made, there is no coming back. Not for them, not for anyone. Because a person who has been ignored, betrayed, or taken for granted, when they finally let go, they don't halfway detach. They evaporate. They disappear from your life like they never existed. No warnings, no final conversation, no emotional outburst, just silence, just absence, just nothingness. And that nothingness hits harder than any argument ever could. They start to feel uneasy. Their confidence cracks. They start checking your social media. They start replaying old conversations in their head. They start wondering, did I push too far? Why aren't they reacting? Why aren't they trying anymore? Because they expected anger. They expected a breakdown. They expected you to beg. But all they got was indifference. And indifference is lethal. You see, hate still means you care. Anger still means you feel something. But indifference, that means the heart has moved on. You didn't turn cold. You just stopped burning for people who loved watching you burn. They call you selfish now. Why? Because you aren't carrying their pain anymore. You aren't responsible for fixing them anymore. You aren't the emotional dumping ground they once used you as. You stopped being the comfort they abused. You stopped being their backup plan. You stopped being their emotional oxygen. And suddenly they can't breathe. They label you heartless, changed, different. But the truth is simple. You finally treated them how they always treated you. You stopped overthinking. You stopped overgiving. You stopped over-explaining. You realized that loyalty without reciprocation is self-destruction. You realized that loving someone who isn't afraid to lose you is a slow death. So you walked away, not because you stopped caring, but because they did. And now they're panicking. Now they want answers. What happened? Why are you distant? Why are you cold? As if they don't remember. As if your silence came out of nowhere. They forgot the nights you stayed awake worrying. They forgot the days you showed up while they disappeared. They forgot the effort you gave. Effort they never appreciated. They forgot that you always tried. They forgot that you stayed long after you should have left. But you didn't forget. You remember every ignored message, every broken promise, every moment they made you feel replaceable. So you let them feel what you felt. You don't argue anymore because you don't explain loyalty to the disloyal. You don't prove your worth to people who are blind to your value. You don't water relationships that don't water you. What they fail to understand is, you didn't lose them. They lost you. They lost the version of you that cared. They lost the version of you that forgave. They lost the version of you that would have walked through fire for them. That version is gone. In its place stands someone else. Someone sharper. Someone stronger. Someone that can see through people instantly. Someone who finally learned not everyone deserves access to you. They used to think you were replaceable. Now they realize you were one of one, and they will spend the rest of their life trying to find pieces of you in other people. But they won't, because you are not a chapter in their story. You were the plot. You were the turning point. You were the moment their life could have changed. Now you are the lesson. So here you are, past the pain, past the heartbreak, past the version of you who tolerated disrespect just because you cared too much. You survived what was meant to destroy you. Now comes the part they never expected, your rise. Because heartbreak doesn't break everyone. Some people are built from it. Some people use pain as a blueprint. Some people take betrayal and turn it into transformation. You are one of those rare souls who don't just bounce back. You come back unrecognizable. You stop caring about their opinions. You stop entertaining their excuses. You stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. You start focusing on yourself, your goals, your money, your purpose, your future. You realize self-improvement is the real revenge. Not posting quotes online, not trying to show them you've moved on. The real revenge is becoming someone they'll never have access to again. You start hitting the gym harder. You start grinding on your goals like your life depends on it. You start choosing discipline over impulse. Suddenly your energy is sacred. Your time is valuable. Your presence is rare. You don't give people multiple seats in your life when they couldn't even earn a standing ticket. You are no longer emotionally generous with emotionally bankrupt people. The version of you that begged for love is dead. The version of you that ignored your own pain is buried. And what took their place is someone they never imagined you could become. Unbothered, focused, untouchable. They will watch your transformation from a distance. They will see everything you're building. They will see the glow that comes only from inner peace. They will feel your absence like a punch to the chest, because your success will remind them of everything they lost. Your growth will remind them of everything they never appreciated, and your silence will remind them that access to you was a privilege, not a right. They'll try to come back. Oh, they always do. They return when the attention stops. They return when the praises fade. They return when ego stops feeding them, and they will say, "I miss you. I've changed. I realized what I had." But you will look at them with the same calm expression they once misinterpreted and simply walk away, not out of anger, but out of evolution, because when you heal, you don't go back to what broke you. Let them wonder why you left. Let them crave what they used to take for granted. Let them witness your greatness from the outside. You owe no explanation to anyone who didn't value you when they had you. They wanted a silent victim. Instead, they created a silent threat. You are no longer powered by emotion. You are powered by ambition, purpose, discipline, vision. You rise differently when you have nothing left to lose. Because pain didn't soften you. Pain built you. Pain gave you clarity. Pain gave you strength. Pain gave you power. And now, your evolution is the story. Your silence is the revenge. Your success is the closure. The world thought you would break. Instead, you became the storm. And storms don't apologize. They arrive. They destroy. They clear the path. You don't need to prove anything anymore. You are proof. The past version of you is gone. This one is untouchable.